Good evening, this is The Last Word and I'm Marya Shakil. The trouble for airline passengers continues. Fog-related disruptions, delays and cancellations are the new normal. Facing a barrage of criticisms, the Civil Aviation Ministry has now issued a 6-point action plan. But is this too little too late? Will it really provide any relief to the beleaguered passengers? That's our top story.
Amid fog delays and chaos, fresh directives from the government. War rooms at 6 metro airports to help passengers, round-the-clock CISF manpower availability, incidents reporting thrice daily from metro airports.
The government has opened another runway which can function within extreme low visibility. This has been done in order to ensure that flights can take off and land even in dense fog conditions.
The fresh action from the government came hours after a show cause notice for both low-cost airline Indigo and the Mumbai airport over these bizarre scenes last night of passengers eating dinner on the tarmac near an Indigo flight after a 10-hour delay. In a strongly worded notice, the government said both Indigo and the Mumbai airport were not proactive and provided no facilities to stranded passengers. The fog situation in North India was slightly better today, but still led to over 83 flight cancellations at the Delhi airport. 469 flights at Delhi were delayed.
Compared to the previous days, today the situation at the airport at least seems to be a lot more orderly. Most flights are now either boarding or the gates are open as compared to yesterday. So that also goes on to show that the management today at the airport has been a lot better. With Mohammad Mursalin in Delhi, Isharat Lahiri for NDTV.
So let me bring in my guest now. Nidhi Chapikar is former Jet Airways flight attendant. We have Captain S.S. Panisar. He's ex-director flight safety and training from Indian Airlines. Captain Amit Singh is an air safety expert. We also have Jitendra Bhargav, former executive director of Air India. Before I bring in my other panelists, let me go straight to, we also have Bijon Mishra, who is consumer rights activist. But first, Jitendra Bhargav, you know, one may say it's an evergreen story. Unfortunately, it's a story which repeats itself every winters. Then why are we not able to find a solution?
Well, the solution will always be elusive. The only thing we can achieve is to minimize inconvenience to passengers. But what has happened this year is, because the industry has been in growth mode, a lot of new flights have been added, 133 aircrafts to be precise, have been inducted in 2023. A lot of new pilots got trained, and one of the casualties of this induction of pilots for new aircraft was that not many regular pilots got Cat 3B training by the airlines, and you have not been able to roster them. So there has been some kind of a chaos, and the fog has been unprecedented in a way because it came in early morning on Sunday at 5 o'clock and continued till about 9 o'clock. And that is when bulk of the flights originate from Delhi for other destinations in the country. So that's one major reason why this has happened. They have the requisite experience. They know what to do about it, but it went out of control, cascading effect on the flight operations countrywide.
And Mr. Bhargav, you know, these are harrowing experiences if you were to look at it. You know, passengers being caught almost locked in the aero bridge. How do you minimize this? You know, one may say that passengers are almost being held hostage by these airlines.
There are undoubtedly harrowing experiences, but we got to look at reality that the fog disrupts flight schedules. Flight schedule means inconvenience to passengers. And when you have 40, 50 cancelled flight passengers at the terminal building, airlines really do not know how to go about it because fog will not give you advance notice that, look, in the next 2 hours, the visibility will be back and you can plan your operations. There's uncertainty all around because of the fog. And the reality is that because airlines have safety parameters, flight duty time limitations imposed by DGCA, they got to adhere to it. in the interest of safety. Now, you really can't wish it away, the inconvenience caused, but what you can do is to minimize it. And I quite buy your point when you say that when you hold passengers to hostage, either on the aircraft or in the aerobridge, for example, at which it happened in Mumbai, they are not the right thing to do, or even for that matter, passengers squatting on the floor on the tarmac in Mumbai airport and having dinner, and all these things send a very, very bad message to the international community.
Yes, absolutely. We are boasting of an industry which is increasing in terms of the fleet which is being added. The passenger numbers is also increasing, but what's really the use of an industry or of means of transportation if it can't provide basic facilities?
You see, the question is, what are the basic facilities that one is looking at? One is the communication part, which has been often referred to by the passengers. And my reply to that has been very simple. Your question is, when will my flight depart? They want an answer from the airline concerned. But can the staffer at the airport give an answer to this question? They're not aware when the fog will disappear, when the visibility will be back, flight operation will be resumed. And when the flight operations are resumed, there are 50 flights to take off, which can't take off simultaneously. What sequence will be drawn? And when will the number come? They are in no position to share the information. But what they can do is that when the fog is set in and for example, the 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock flight is unlikely to depart on time, alert the passengers through SMS. And I must share here my own experience. I booked on the 12:20 flight from Mumbai to Hyderabad tomorrow. Today, I've got a message from Indigo stating that my flight has been cancelled, giving me the option of either taking a refund or an alternate booking. I've gone in for the alternate booking, and they have booked me on the 4:50 p.m. flight tomorrow. So there is a semblance of respectability that's come in, but on the day of the fog, when you had enormous number of flight cancellations, things went haywire, and quite naturally, if one appreciates the operational constraints. You have staffing at the airport to handle certain number of passengers per hour. But if you are made to handle 5 times that number, you really can't get the same service standards as you would get in normal circumstances.
Okay, my last question, what will you be telling the airlines now? What can they do?
The airlines, all that they can do is to reduce the number of flight operations during the winter months. But is that a sound proposition? Will cancellation or reduction in number of flights not lead to massive increases in fares? So it's a situation where you get criticized, whatever option you may go in for. You can't cancel the flights. You can't reduce the flights. It will not be accepted. Airline will face criticism on that as well. You see the suggestion given by the Minister of Civil Aviation yesterday, that if a flight is likely to get delayed by 3 hours, cancel it. Now you will have another set of problems on it, like I gave my own example. If they had not booked me on an alternate flight, I would have had to book it on another airline at quite a high fare. So something is better. You're getting on to it. We are in growth mode. Everything is not wrong with the airline industry. Airline management know how to function, but the external factor of fog, which is beyond an airline's control, and it comes unannounced. That's the irony of it.
All right, Jitendra Bhargav, appreciate your time. Let me bring in Captain Panesar. Captain Panesar, SOP is being issued by the Civil Aviation Ministry, but one may say that this is something that happens every year. Have we been caught unawares?
Well, let me tell you at the outset, first of all, the weather is not in the hand of pilot or any person, human being. Especially in winter season, there's a problem of fog. And in the rainy season, and before that, the thunderstorm, dust storms come, which are beyond the control of human being. In such cases, weather goes very bad and we get a warning from Met Office, the pilot either decide to delay the flight or when they are coming, they divert to the other station. Now, Air India, which is fully equipped with pilots who are operating international flights, they are trained for category 3 ILS, which they can land in very, very poor visibility also. Some of the Indigo is also trying to compete, but this training procedure of Cat 3 ILS landing and takeoff is a tedious process. Pilots have to undergo simulator training, then actual flying training in the weather. That situation takes time, but Air India, Indigo, they're fully equipped, but other airlines, they find difficult in training pilots because of shortage of pilots also. It is a tedious process to train them for category 3 ILS. Now, as regards the airport authority is concerned, when the flights are delayed, they should be fully equipped to handle the passengers' capacity in the departure
So
launch.
reduce the number of flight operations is what Jitendra Bhargav said. Bijon Misra, will that really protect the consumer interest, the interest of the
Not
passengers?
at all.
Because they'll end up
Not at
paying
all.
perhaps much
Not
more.
at all.
The
Not
cost
at
would
all.
go up.
Absolutely. I must tell you very categorically, Marya, that what does the consumer look for? I pay the money in advance. Why I pay in advance? Because I'm promised certain services, certain quality of service. And I am entitled for the services of that quality which has been promised or laid down by the regulator. Now, my contention is, if anybody is violating it for enriching themselves and for making profit, they cannot undermine the rights of the consumers, nor they can ignore them. They cannot. Because they have taken the money in advance. I have paid based on a promise made to me when I bought the ticket. I understand unforeseen circumstances, weather, vagera, vagera, vagera. But there is a protocol laid down for all situations to be followed. And when those protocols are not followed, strong action, deterrent action should be taken so that all that profiteering which the airline is making should come back to the consumer. Simple.
Yes,
And it can be done.
but here,
Why is it not being done?
If the airlines, are they really profiteering, or are they, perhaps getting away with giving too less to the passengers, Captain Singh? Because you have images which are very, very disturbing. Passengers being caught for 10 hours and they have been given food on the tarmac. They have been almost locked in an aero bridge. These are the pictures which are emerging. So no matter what the airline, everybody would be wondering what their air travel would mean next when they actually board a plane.
So on one hand, we boast that we are flying the latest technology-driven aircraft. We have the A350 coming in. We are using artificial intelligence, etc. And on the other hand, we go back to the rudimentary stage that, we cannot provide you this service. A pilot trains every 6 months for an eventuality if an engine fails at takeoff, during cruise, for other failures. Airports, they carry out emergency drills for bomb threats, for an accident. And there are SOPs for fog. Fog does not appear out of nowhere. Fog is predicted by the IMD, the Indian Met Department. So they have supercomputers. They can predict what the temperature, humidity, wind conditions, and then they can simulate other conditions to predict whether there will be fog or not. So there is a DGCA Aeronautical Information Circular on low visibility operation, which says that if fog is predicted, and fog normally comes at 5 o'clock or with the sunrise, that everybody knows. It is not that it is unprecedented, nobody has seen. It happens every winters, and there is a particular time it comes depending on the environmental conditions. So it is nothing new. It is just that everybody is caught unaware. So nobody prepares during winters or before winters for the fog season. What if this happens?
Yes, and
So,
Captain Singh,
SOP
you're right.
says-
We talk about artificial intelligence. We talk about all kinds of scientific achievements that India has had. But when it comes to basic air travel during fog season, India seems to be disappointing its own people. So that brings me to Nidhi. Nidhi, the visuals that came in also of passengers beating up the pilot, is that something which is often seen the aggression of the passengers because they are disturbed. There's no clear response that comes in from the either the flight attendant or the pilot, and it ends up being a very, very heated situation.
Look, the visual which I could see here is it shows very clearly the pilot is announcing, the pilot is informing. Yes, I do agree that there could be, urgency of the passenger. He needs to be there, but this is not something the fault of a pilot of any airline, yes. But how he can be so disruptive, because as I feel that they are informing, they are telling the passengers, look, this is what the situation is, we are number so and so in the takeoff, because there are certain, I think, protocols to be followed, even if you have to deplane the passengers. So how the person can just hit because he's an unruly passenger on board as per what we have been given the instructions. So this kind of a behavior should not be tolerated, because pilot in command is the supreme authority on board. He decides whatever decision he has to take, and it is very, I would say, he's jeopardizing not only the safety here of the crew, of the passengers, but definitely of the pilot as well.
Yes, but the role of the pilot is also being questioned. I'm looking at what happened before this assault took place. While I'm not justifying this kind of violence, but what the pilot did was also something that could have been avoided. Yes, this passenger will become a no-flyer, all that is fine, but when it is about mismanagement and unprofessionalism, that is something that the crew will also be held accountable for.
Yes, I agree to that. But here, what I feel, whatever I have read about it, is that yes, they were in the aircraft for so many hours, where the airline should have decided that, okay, fine, we need to deplane passengers, we need to give them a breather, we will get them what we used to do. We, after 4 hours, if still the fog is there, either we would cancel, as how the others have said, or we would deplane the passengers, let them, go to the departure hall once again.
Yes, so that brings me to Captain Panisar. Why not deplane passengers and let them at least be on ground, rather than hold them inside the aircraft or on the air bridge?
See, in the departure line, the place is so short, even when the flights are delayed, forget about sitting, even standing you find very difficult. But I find one solution in America, most of the country, the Met Office is so correct. If they announce the snowfall will start at 2 o'clock, it starts at 2 o'clock. We have to improve our Met forecasting also, where they warn the airline well in advance with the proper coordination that their fog is going to come in or bad weather is coming in. And with that coordination, they can advise the pilot and the airline, and they can accordingly delay the flight for a particular time. And when they delay the flight, passengers' anxiety is that they should be looked after on the ground very well. But most of the international airports in Delhi, they have very short space for the departure lounges. If there are 10 flights departing at one time, you go to Delhi, forget about the chairs. Even you find difficulty in standing. The restaurants are not fully equipped. The airline has to take care of the passenger, and the pilot take care of the safety of passenger and crew. He will not violate the Met minima, weather minima as laid down by the regulatory body and the airlines. And they are fully trained for all type of contingency category 3. And when the airline pilots are not trained for category 3, he is not going to take a venture to take off in a bad weather or a poor visibility. But our Met officers should be able to have a better coordination, better forecasting to tell in advance, like in other countries.
So the onus is now on weather forecast, something that Captain Singh was also pointing out. So, when we look at solutions, where are the solutions, Captain Singh? It cannot be certainly be about those SOPs which has been put out by the Civil Aviation Minister.
There have been SOPs since 2009, as I said.
That's right.
So every year there's a new SOP which comes in. It is just that we are caught unawares by the fog, and we do not base our departures on the Met forecast. Met gives a daily forecast, whether there will be fog tomorrow, intensity of fog, likelihood of fog visibility decreasing to 0 or 100 or 200. They give an accurate prediction for the following day. So, but that SOP is not implemented. Once chaos happens, and then everybody pitches in, and then it is on a war footing that new SOPs comes in. There are visits by dignitaries, high officials, but the existing SOP says there will be a nodal officer present to coordinate all activities. So who's the nodal officer? Why is nobody questioning that? Where is the nodal officer who was responsible to coordinate all activities during the fog period? So why did the SOP fail? This is what we call anti-fragility, which means that once a system fails, we recover from it, we learn from it, and next time we don't repeat the same mistake. But we seem to be repeating the same mistake year on. Every year we do the same thing. So the problem, it is a systemic problem. It is not a pilot's problem or a ATC officer's problem, because they are being held, they're also being held as a diktat of the operations control or the airlines. So they're only the messengers, basically. So we are shooting down the messengers, but nobody questioning who is responsible for running the show.
Okay, then in that
person should be
case,
questioned.
these war rooms that have been set up or increased number of CISF manpower, Bijon, will it really solve the situation?
No, it has to be tackled at the grassroots. The grassroots is heads must roll. If SOPs are not implemented well, there has to be stringent action taken so that there is a message which goes that consumer is supreme. We cannot take them for granted. We have to take care of them. They are primarily the trigger to development, to growth, to everything. You talk about 5 trillion economy, it can only come when you look at the consumer. And if you don't look after the consumer, we will never be able to reach that. And if we are able to reach it also, we'll reach it in this kind of a situation where, we'll get into a situation where we'll not be able to manage. You see, what I have been saying all the time to the authorities is, please, for heaven's sake, develop systems which are made accountable to the end users. Make systems which will make people understand the value of a passenger. Now, when I'm looking at your visuals, has anybody tried to find out about this passenger? He could be a mental health, victim, and you are trying to punish him. He's not able to manage himself. He may be under medication. And today, you make him sit in the airport for more than 10 hours, and then the pilot comes and blames the passenger. You think he's going to keep quiet? He's not going to keep quiet because he's a victim of mental health. You have to understand these nuances, these fine issues which people don't try to understand.
So, Nidhi, I'll give you the last word. I want to understand from you. I'm sure there is a clear direction or directive which has to be followed by flight attendants whenever a situation of this nature arises. Is that really followed?
Yeah, when we used to fly, if there is a delay, definitely the delay only takes place once you are all on board, captains on board, doors are closed. You inform ATC that, okay, we are ready for takeoff. And then they say, okay, you're number 20 in the departure sequence. So we were given instructions by the captains that, okay, now you can do some of the ground services to engage passengers, to engage our guests on board. So keep them hydrated. So this is what we used to do. After a certain amount of 30 minutes, every call was made that, okay, now we are number so-and-so, either from the ground, crew or the pilot in command, that, okay, now we will be taking another 15 minutes or 1 hour, whatever it is. I remember once we were to go to Delhi and our captain said, we have 2 hours minimum delay. So I said, it's a lunchtime. I cannot hold my guest on board. He said, then what after takeoff? I said, that's my decision. So I think I should serve the lunch on, board. And we did it. We finished in around saying 2 hours and they were all happy after takeoff. All of them have slept. So this is something I think a crew also has to take the initiative to make a decision what we have to do and then inform captain accordingly.
Okay.
Because if you are continuously with the guests,
be sensitive towards the passengers is the least that can be done by the airlines, even as we hope that tomorrow is a better day for all those who are taking the flights tomorrow. So Nidhi, thank you so much. Captain Panisar, Captain Singh and Bijon Misra. a story that we'll continue to track very closely here on NDTV. That's all from me. Thanks so much for watching.